Have you ever watched your whole world burn down from the back of a police car, knowing the person who lit the match was sitting in the front seat? The cold vinyl of the seat stuck to my skin, the cuffs biting into my wrists. I wasn't looking at the flashing red and blue lights painting the Chicago skyline. I was looking at the reflection in the rearview mirror. My wife, Sarah, stood on the curb, a perfect picture of distress, her hand pressed to her mouth, but her eyes weren't on me. They were locked on him. Officer Miller, the man who had just read me my rights on a bogus charge, gave her the slightest, almost imperceptible nod. That's when I knew. My life wasn't just falling apart. It was being systematically dismantled by the two people I should have been able to trust the most. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Our story, my story, had been a good one. 10 years of marriage, a brownstone in Lincoln Park, the kind of life people put on Instagram to make others jealous. I was a software architect, a man who built stable, logical systems. Sarah was a curator at a small, chic art gallery in the West Loop. She was my opposite, spontaneous, vibrant, a creature of beauty and chaos. I thought our differences were what made us strong. I was the foundation, and she was the art that filled the house. But foundations can crack. It started subtly. Phone call she'd take in the other room, her voice a low murmur. Nights she claimed were spent at gallery events that I'd later find out never happened. I'd find receipts from lavish restaurants on Michigan Avenue I'd never been to, for dates she said were with her girlfriends. When I'd ask, her answers were smooth, practiced, and coated in a layer of condescending pity. "Honey, you worry too much," she'd say, touching my cheek. "Don't you trust me?" It was a masterclass in manipulation. She made me feel like the crazy one, the suspicious, controlling husband. She painted me as a villain in my own home. The worst part was the way she looked at me, her eyes turning cold and distant, as if I were a stranger she'd just met on the street. The warmth we once shared was gone, replaced by a chilling indifference. The man she was seeing, this Officer Miller, was a ghost. I only knew him through the changes in her. She started talking about the bravery of police officers, the sacrifices they make. She, who had always been a vocal critic of law enforcement, was suddenly their biggest advocate. They felt untouchable, wrapped in the armor of her lies and his uniform.
Ow.
The emotional toll was devastating. I remember one night sitting in my car in a dark parking garage on Lower Wacker Drive, just staring at the concrete wall, feeling the weight of it all crush me. I was a logical man, and my world had become illogical. I broke down the kind of silent, gut-wrenching sobs that leave you hollowed out. That was the moment the loyal husband died. In his place, a strategist was born. My grief turned to ice, my pain to purpose. I wasn't just going to uncover the truth. I was going to build a cage for them, piece by piece, using their own arrogance as the bars. I started gathering proof. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who hated dirty officers more than I did. He was worth every penny. He got me photos Sarah and Miller kissing in a dimly lit booth at a diner in River North, their hands intertwined. Him, leaving her car in the early morning hours, his uniform looking disheveled. I installed software on our home network, capturing their texts. They were sickeningly arrogant. They called me the wallet, the boring husband. Miller joked about my naivety. Sarah promised him that once she got a favorable divorce settlement, they'd be together, free and clear. The arrest was their endgame. Miller had a friend in the DA's office. They concocted a story about me being involved in some vague financial fraud, something my company was supposedly under investigation for. It was a lie, but a well-crafted one. They planted just enough evidence to get a warrant. The public humiliation was the point. They wanted to ruin my reputation, drain my finances with legal fees, and force me into a desperate divorce settlement. They wanted to destroy me, but they underestimated me. They thought I was just a broken man. They didn't know I had spent the last 2 months meticulously documenting their every move. While they were planning my downfall, I was setting my trap. I contacted the Internal Affairs Division and the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. I didn't just give them the photos and texts. I gave them a timeline, financial records showing large, unexplained cash deposits into Miller's account that coincided with dates. He was with Sarah. I showed them how he'd used police databases to run my plates. A clear abuse of power. My lawyer, a shark I'd hired the week after my breakdown, was ready. The day of my arraignment was the day the trap sprung. The courtroom was cold, sterile. Sarah was there, sitting in the gallery, looking somber. Miller stood against the back wall, smug and confident in his uniform. He was there to watch his plan come to fruition. My lawyer stood up. "Your Honor," he said, his voice echoing in the silent room, "we are not here to discuss the baseless fraud charges against my client. We are here to present evidence of a conspiracy, witness tampering, and abuse of power by a sworn officer of the Chicago Police Department." He placed a thick binder on the prosecutor's table. The color drained from Sarah's face. Miller went rigid. The binder contained everything: the photos, the text messages, the financial records, statements from the private investigator. It was a perfect, undeniable narrative of their deception. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Fraud charges against me were dropped. Officer Miller was suspended, then fired, then indicted. His friend in the DA's office was investigated. But for Sarah, the destruction was more personal. Our friends, our family, they all saw the evidence. They saw the cold, calculating cruelty in her own words. She wasn't just a cheater, she was a monster. The divorce was swift. She got nothing. Her gallery, funded by my money, fired her. Her social circle vanished. She was left with nothing but the public shame she had tried to inflict on me. I never saw her again, but I heard she moved out of state, working some menial job, a ghost of the woman she once was. My life is quiet now. The brownstone feels too big, the silence too loud. I won. I got my revenge. But victory feels a lot like standing alone in the ashes of a world you once loved. The end.